Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew and Austin with Stock Talk. Pleasure to have you here and joining us today. Austin, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Andrew. How about yourself?
Everything is great. This morning, I was lucky to hear about last night. There was a town hall or just like a call-in Q&A with Mountain Valley MVDA or it's MVMA. MVMV. My God, that was terrible I get this mixed up because I'm also going to be talking about Nvidia today, and I went back and forth on all the acronyms and the big letters. Anyway,
too many letters.
That was on
going on.
It's too much mixed together. What a mess. So the town hall was great. We don't work with the company. I mean, Brandon Caldwell was on talking to us from Sagacity. He's a big fan. He's done really well in the company. There's been a big pullback in price for sure. So, but it's definitely got a lot of attention. And I wanted to jump in there because I'd liked a lot of the things I was hearing, and it's complicated, but they've had great results as well. So it's very interesting what's happening over there in regards to their cold chain storage, in regards to Invectol and ivermectin. Their use with husbandry or with animals, specifically poultry. So there's a number of different business lines. And then, of course, I'd seen a press release probably about 3 weeks ago in regards to cancer. And of course, whenever I see anyone talking about any kind of treatment for cancer, my alarm bells just start sounding because it's just one of those ones where you're like, whoa, okay, hold on. So I really wanted to hear what they had to say about that. And I can't report back on too much because there's so much to go through, and I don't want to give it a disservice. But there's certainly some interesting things that I'm going to look into. So in regards to cancer, there's a thing called checkpoint inhibitors. And this has revolutionized cancer work in the last decade. And essentially some of the drugs and trials they've had, they're able to work on certain cells and certain treatments, but not all cells and different forms of cancer. So these checkpoint inhibitors are playing a key role moving forward. And there's a way in which their product over with Mountain Valley is able to hopefully aid in that checkpoint inhibitor portion. So that's a huge chain of potential revenue. Of course, then the ivermectin story, which a lot of people don't know, but also there's a fair amount of people, depending on which news sources you look at, will understand that ivermectin can play a major role and has had a lot of success in treating coronavirus. So it was interesting because this has an extremely high political content to it, and not to go down that road, but it was interesting to discuss that as well. So I wanted to bring it up because I think what we'll do too is if anyone has any real interest, reach out to us, to either Austin at Supercharged Stocks or Andrew at Supercharged Stocks, and I'll look to see if we can even get a copy of it from Brandon if you have any interest, and we will try to get that for you. But anyways, it was really good. I wanted to go in there and hear what was happening because there'd been such a big pullback. I know there's been massive short attack on it, which would make sense because right now, I think everyone would agree the only topic of discussion in mainstream news is vaccines. So that's the only thing. That's the only focus. And there's, of course, a lot of the people speaking about that being the focus also happen to have spouses, significant others that work for pharmaceutical companies. And of course, the big names pushing the vaccine or the mRNA or gene therapy approach, they're not technically vaccines, have high stakes at this. And this is a massive high stake, high business stake venture that's going on, literally trillions of dollars. So there's obviously going to be a lot at stake. So I think my gut is there's a lot of more work to be done with Mountain Valley, but I'm interested. So that's the thing, is I'm very curious about it. But it looks like, once the mainstream media focuses on whatever news story they're going to focus on soon, I think that they're going to get a lot of attention because there will be a huge opportunity if they keep on hitting milestones for revenue to come in, and that is then a big game changer for the story, the shifting sands of interest start flowing away towards actual science and not just media.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear them touch on a few different things like that, and they're really targeting this approach of how can we help the rest of the world that isn't ahead on the vaccine mRNA treatment rollout catch up as well. That was a big focus that they touched on during the webinar this morning. So that was nice to see. That's encouraging that they're still got targets. They still got ways that they think that they can go about pushing out their product. Another side of that coin as well, they talked about looking at the potential for a Nasdaq listing, which I thought was very interesting. The CEO expressed his interest in trying to get that moving forward as quickly as possible, potentially as early as July. So that could be interesting for them as well. Another way they're just trying to combat the negative flow of information around them, the short attacks and stuff like that. So encouraging news kind of coming out of MVMD this morning.
Yeah, and I just want to do a little correction there. It was the NEO exchange, not the Nasdaq.
Oh, sorry.
So
my mistake.
yes, no, that's fine. Nasdaq, I mean, that would be big news. But the NEO exchange, that is another exchange here in Canada that that a lot of people are moving to, because the main reason for that is that these short attacks are much more recognizable on this other exchange. On the Venture Exchange and the Canadian Securities Exchange, short attacks are a little bit easier to be done, and there's not as much transparency. On the NEO Exchange, there's a lot more tools to be able to see what and who and how this is going on, and working to mainly fight against high frequency trading and algorithms that are out there that purposely try to dump stocks. And we see this all the time. It's amazing with some of these pump and dumps that are happening with algorithms. The sophistication is very high. And it's an unfortunate thing to see. That's always been around. People always think of the more classic, Wolf of Wall Street type of someone calling you up and pumping up a stock, and they're pumping it up because they're basically selling you their stock and driving the stock price up. It hasn't changed. It just has shifted to larger scale, bigger approaches, and more, it's not terribly difficult to find out. I mean, we've seen articles, we've talked about XRO and a couple other companies where articles are posted by big outlets that don't bother to fact check, don't bother to go look to see the quality of the writing. And they'll literally give an opinion that's not even based, even the links don't work taking you anywhere, but it's done its work. It's done its damage.
Well, they're essentially running a hit piece, right?
Yeah. And we've seen it. And once that's done, like once people are, especially investors, they've seen a lot of these scams before. And if you highlight and you throw a caution up, it can do the damage. It can stop things. It can halt them very quickly, and you can push a stock down way easier than you can push a stock up. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and so it's encouraging to see them trying to combat this and coming up with a strategy to move forward. I thought that was all very, very encouraging news coming out of there. So hopefully continuing in that right direction. Hopefully seeing some good stock movement and some more exciting news on the MVMD front as we move forward.
Yeah, and I mean it's an interesting one. I find these ones fascinating, and I like their approach because they're very genuine and that they want to help the world. So it isn't just a typical pharma company maximizing price gouging behavior like Sheckley or something like that. Martin Sheckley, that approach. It's the exact opposite of can we have a big positive impact, but also make money. And I like that approach from them. They seem very genuine. Now, switching gears a little bit, because we also like to look at other interesting stories and bigger news on bigger markets. Fill us in a little bit on Nvidia.
So Nvidia has been an interesting one. Obviously, as a company that's in the sectors of gaming and data centers and kind of data storage and making computer chips and stuff like that, they've obviously had a very impressive run over the last 18 months, given the massive demand for any kind of technological advancements or improvements for your computers or your technology systems. So they've had an excellent run. Their stock's up 1,600% or something like that over the last 2 years. So great news on that front. And now what they're doing is a 4-to-1 split to reduce that share price, kind of add an extra, I think they estimate about 4 billion shares into their market flow. and just trying to kind of, they're doing, we see companies do these things all the time. I think Nvidia is doing it from a position of strength where they are trying to diversify. They're trying to give higher flow for their stock, and also I think it makes it a more attractive price point to try to get in at I think it's something about $48 is what it's down to now, or something like that. So it's exciting to see that a company that's having such great revenue, which also on the other hand is going to be announcing earnings for the first quarter later today at the close of the market today. So that'll be interesting to keep your eyes on. But just kind of an interesting move, and I wondered kind of your thoughts on companies doing this. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea in this specific case? What are your thoughts on it? Just splits in general, and your opinion on it, Andrew.
Generally, and this is very general, it's generally good. I mean, there's no fundamental value change in doing the split, but there's Nvidia, it really is attracted to a lot of retail investors. I mean, a lot of your age group, even my age group, if you know anything about video games, you know the absolute critical need for high-end graphic cards. And on top of that, you need these ASIC or GPU high-end cards for crypto mining. So any kind of Bitcoin or any kind of crypto, Ethereum, you need these cards. These are the cards that one uses. And there's been a big supply demand issue over that, specifically because of the crypto issue. So you've got, you're basically attracting a lot more of your retail investor, because psychologically it's a little bit easier to think I could buy a share at $40 or $60 than at, 200 or 600 or 1,000. And yes, you can buy fractional amounts of a share on other platforms, but quite frankly, that's not as appealing to anyone than thinking at least I can buy 100 shares of Nvidia, XYZ, or whatever the company happens to be. So if you have a company like Nvidia that has been charging along at breakneck speeds and has already done 4 splits in the past, or this is the fourth split, it's definitely a good buy signal. Once again, there's no guarantees to anything. And I'm sure over the course of the week, when I looked at some of the data, that the stock can, over the course of the 4 days, once the process is done, can remain kind of flat. But moving forward, it sends a big signal, and you don't have to spend too much energy to look at Nvidia itself as a company, what they do, the demand for them out, not only for individual investors, but for many applications and uses, to say this looks very attractive.
Yeah, it does look very attractive. It does look very exciting. And obviously, you kind of hit the nail on the head there with that. It's going to pop up on the radar of people who, now, they weren't looking at anything over $100 because it's not in their price range. It's not what they're interested in. Now, all of a sudden, it pops back down to their radar, and they're saying, oh, okay, you know what? Maybe this is a cool opportunity to get into a company that has awesome potential. I'm expecting to see awesome results coming out as far as their earnings report goes. I mean, I don't think it'll be quite to the way their last earnings report was, which I think had their revenue up over 50%. So I don't expect this one to be quite as crazy, but I still think that they'll be moving in the right direction. And it makes it a very, very attractive buy. And I think the stock price will reflect that as we move forward.
Yeah, and it's got an aggressive PE ratio of like 90 right now, which is pretty aggressive. But compared to some on out there in the tech sector that are in the hundreds and multiple hundreds, this one is pretty aggressive, but it's aggressive growth. And like you said, there is chain of custody and of transportation and being able to meet demand since COVID has shut down plants and XYZ and all that. So revenue will be tough. We'll see. It'll be interesting what the revenue is, but moving forward, I mean, they are definitely a solid company. It's one we don't usually talk about or look at, but I wanted to touch on it because, just for educational sense, it's nice to look at when events like this happen and to see a company. And if anyone looks at a longer price chart of Nvidia too, and keep in mind that it's done a bunch of these splits, you can see, whereas if you're an investor in a company and you believe in management, you believe that when they're hitting milestones and you keep on reinvesting in them, you can see how some of these people, do very well. You don't need to go find multiple companies or have a basket of 10 stocks. If you find something good that's doing really well, you reward the management by investing further into the company, and they keep on hitting, their targets. you can build great positions in companies as they grow and as they build. So I wanted to highlight that. It highlights also the difference between someone who invests in a business compared to someone who's just trading for a numbers game.
Yeah, exactly. That I think you nailed it with that, and it's interesting to see. Always when you're looking at companies that have done this, engaging, are they doing it from a position of strength? Are they doing it because they might need to? So seeing them do this, what I interpret from a position of strength, it's a strong move for a company, and it's exactly like you said. You get involved with these companies early on. You're helping the process of building them. You're rewarding the management by continuing to invest in this company because you believe in it, because they're hitting milestones. And it's awesome to see a good reflection of this on the much larger scale than what you and I are normally talking about. So that's super, super encouraging to see. Now, I know one last thing you had wanted to touch on before we get going here is our June newsletter and our June pick of the month. So if you want to jump into that and let everyone know kind of what's on your mind and what's going to be going on for June.
Yes, so we've always just given away our top picks in the past, to attract people. We want to keep on growing our subscription both on our site and as well as YouTube. So we always encourage people that if you like what you hear and see, invite friends to watch and get them to subscribe. It's it's for free, just takes a click. But moving forward, we're only going to be giving out this next newsletter to those who have subscribed. So those who have gone on our site, typed in their email, and they'll get the look at what we're talking about. Besides Desert Mountain Energy, everyone knows I love that one. So that's always my top pick. It is until things further change, until something drastic happens. That one is always going to be on my list, and I'll let you know if it ever does come off, but I don't anticipate it anytime soon. So this will be a couple other ideas of stocks that I believe have great potential and that I'm buying and that I'm also reinvesting into and looking at for, once again, long-term investments. They're not just trading opportunities. These are long-term investments that I'm holding for multiple years. So yeah, sign up, reach out to me, even if you don't sign up, and we'll get you signed up. And also let some friends know, let people know if they want to see. And the best way to see how we're doing is to hold us accountable. And the best way to do that is to be notified.
Yep, exactly. I think the important thing to stress with this as well is it's free. All I need is an email to sign up. You're going to get that newsletter. You're going to get our picks for June. Andrew and I have worked very hard on kind of putting a couple of really interesting picks together, what we think are going to be huge, huge growth opportunities as we move forward. So it's free. It costs you nothing. Sign up. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the newsletter. You're going to get our top picks. You're going to get kind of our insights into what we think the biggest movers for the rest of 2021 are going to be.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Austin. That's wonderful. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. And once again, too, send us an email if you've got any questions or there's companies that you have interest in. And if we have time, we'll look at them if they're outside of our scope. But, we know we're onto a whole bunch of winners right now, and the years ahead look pretty strong. So enjoy the rest of your day. Austin, you enjoy the rest of the day. And everyone, we look forward to talking to you again on Friday.
Awesome. Thanks as always, Andy. Take care.